What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV live. What's up, Big Whoop? Julian Garcia. What's up? Yeah, this is something that's perplexing me, man. And I want to have a conversation with a lot of young people because I've noticed this with young people. They seem to have this disdain for Dr. King, and I'm not understanding it. I don't know whether or not it's something that they're being told about him that may be some new stuff that I've never heard of, or is it that they're being told something about him that's not actually correct? I'm not saying he was Malcolm X, but the way some people talk about him, that's not the real Dr. King. So I'm just want to have a conversation. What's up? Stories of what is it? Yonko? Stories of Yonko. Straight to the point, sports entertainment salute, man. What's up, Q Smith? What's up, Vinny P? Stories. I don't hate MLK. I think some more Malcolm than Martin. I can understand that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those people that hate Dr. King, that are black. They hate him. And I ain't talking about those far right jigaboo ass niggas. I ain't talking about them. It's just I just don't think a lot of people understand the real Dr. King. I think what's going on is a lot of people believe that the whitewashed, homogenized, pasteurized, watered down, mainstream version of Dr. King, that I have a dream, that's not the real Dr. King. That was Dr. King speaking at a time where he had actual hopes and was actually being you can even argue at that time that Dr. King was being foolhardy because he actually believed that the black plight was finally going to be um, an issue that white America really, really, truly cared about. When in reality, it was more of a political move of necessity by a party. At least that's my interpretation of it. What's up, Q Smith? Some think he was a buck dancer. He wasn't no buck dancer, man. He wasn't a buck dancer. He did what he thought was. People gotta understand. We're talking about 1955 United States. Okay, 1955. We had no rights. We didn't have a vote. Constitutionally, even though it says we had rights, we had no rights. There was no way unless all of us collectively came together and had a violent revolution, which we know wasn't going to fucking happen, right? We know how timid Negroes are to this day. So it won't go be no violent revolution. He had to align with a certain group of people who were white to build a movement to give us something. So yeah, if he had to align himself with the liberal wing of the Democratic Party or the moderate wing of the Democratic Party, he had to do that. It was politically necessary. At least, this is my thing. At least they tried. At least they did something instead of just talking. A lot of people back then were talking, but they actually did something. He mobilized, and he did risk his life. And so when I see people, talking about he's a buck dancer, he's a Sam, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's going too far now. That's going way too far. Some say he was an agent. He wasn't an agent, man. Look, I'm going to tell you something. We live in a we live in a post-racial society, man. There was a time, the last year of Dr. King's, the last 2 years, the year and a half, I said, the 2 years of his life, he was the most hated man in America. They hated him. White folks hated Dr. King. I'm going to tell you the real on here. They fucking hated him. 75% of America hated Dr. King. They hated him more than they hated Malcolm X before he died. So when I see people call him an agent, I'm like, what are you talking about? The FBI helped kill him. Hoover hated him. He turned against the Democratic Party. Dr. King at the end was preaching about reparations. He wanted reparations for his people, money. He turned against the administration was speaking out against the war. He was trying to build an independent third party for black people and poor people. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what are people talking about? What version? This must be, I don't know what version of Dr. King they're talking about. Now he did, and I will agree, he did see the error of his ways, trusting liberals. He did. After 1965, he started seeing certain things. This is how I see it, though. This is how I see it. I will say that they feared Malcolm X more than Malcolm X more than Martin. And they thought that Martin was more tolerable to a certain extent, for the most part, even though Hoover had it in for him. What got Malcolm, to me, what caused Malcolm to be killed, in my opinion, was when Malcolm went from being just a black revolutionary for black Americans in this country to being a Pan-Africanist, which means that he was for the uplifting of all black people across the world. He was going to give a speech talking about that. That's what they feared. They feared Malcolm X linking up with other Pan-African leaders across the world and somehow him being a black messiah, lifting up black people throughout the world. You can do your research on that. That's what got him killed. Matter of fact, I think 3 days after Malcolm X was assassinated, this other black, I keep forgetting his name, this other black Pan-African leader was assassinated. What got Dr. King killed was when he started becoming a threat himself. He started becoming more militant. He started seeing some of the error of his ways, trusting too much into these white liberals, saying that they were starting to ignore him because we still had other issues, which was economic improvement, poverty, schools. They didn't want to hear any of that shit. So he started speaking out more. And we already knew Lyndon Johnson was a fucking murdering sociopath. So to me, I think they put out a hit on his ass. That's just my opinion. But I wouldn't say that he was a buck dancer. Okay, did he make alliances with certain people for political necessity? Yeah. Could he be criticized for that? Yeah. But I don't know about buck dance. I mean, because this is the same dude who brought up Stokely Carmichael. Stokely Carmichael is the one that penned the phrase Black Power. Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, came up under Dr. King. And he loved Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael. So I don't know this. I don't know. I'm just confused when people call him a coon. That's it. Not the criticism, just the coon and buck dancing stuff. Because it made me think you're equating him with people like Jesse Lee Peterson and all these other buck dancing ass Sambos. If anything, let me see. He did at the end turn against him, but he broke oath for his Boule member to replace him with Jesse Jackson. See, if anything, to me, Jesse Jackson is more of a buck dancer than Malcolm. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that Jesse Jackson was an agent. There's a lot of evidence for that. Jesse Jackson is the one that turned against Martin Luther King. You guys know about the day that he died, the Jesse Jackson's refusal to put on a necktie because the people who were watching him at the Lorraine Hotel, the people who didn't have on the neckties were in on the plot to kill him. So those are the ones who the snipers wouldn't shoot. And he refused to put on a necktie. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he did. He did, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, he did base the movement on Mahatma Gandhi. But you guys got to understand the time periods. People want Dr. King in 1955 to come out and be Malcolm X and actually get something accomplished in a political system where black people had no power. There was already no black representation in Congress. We had no economic power, no legislative representative power in an oppressive system. But you want him to come out and be a militant and demand things, it's not going to work. It would never have worked. The little shit that we did get, it would have never worked if he came out that far to the left, or at least what they perceive to be the left. It would have never worked. The only approach at that time was to be more moderate, was to be, in his mind, the only way it was going to work was the nonviolent approach. It was the only way. It was the only politically feasible way at that time that they felt that we would get anything tangible. Now that's look, it was successful to a certain extent. We did get a little bit of legislation that we got passed to help us. It worked, at least from a legislative process. We did get the Civil Rights Act. We got the Voting Rights Act. We got the Housing Amendment. We did get something. But you notice, after Dr. King was assassinated, after Malcolm X was assassinated, after Fred Hampton was assassinated, right? You ever notice, like, all of these dudes, anybody that tries to attempt to become a leader since then, it's like they never can gain any traction. What's up, Mr. Max? Doing business with the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. Dr. King. You know what? Even if he did, who gives a fuck? Who cares? I've never read that, but it's possible that they could have been financing the civil rights movement. I don't care if they were financing, if the Rothschilds and Rockefellers were financing the civil rights movement. Who cares? Don't they finance fucking Trump and all these other motherfuckers and all these other people that have been running for office or doing something and nobody bats an eye? A time a nigga do anything that's tangible, if he do anything questionable, he's throwing under the fucking rocks. Who cares? That's all. I don't know, man. He said I'm brainwashed. Okay, bro. I've done more research on King since a lot of you motherfuckers been alive. Pro and con stuff. Yeah, I mean, look, you can make an argument that he did that you can argue that integration has been bad. Yeah, you can make that argument, but his intentions were good. His intentions were good. Now, look, there's certain trade-offs. Integration has been somewhat beneficial to us economically, but when it comes to the family, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to the family unit, when it comes to certain influences in our community, they've been negative. Yeah, I would argue it's 100% true. But you know what, though? A lot of that stuff was starting, a lot of those processes were happening before Dr. King even came to power. Some don't like MLK for messing with white women on the side. Ah, boy. Joe Lewis messed with white women on the side too, but niggas loved him. But I guess, since he just want to knock people out, it ain't matter. It ain't make a difference. Money or family, which do you value more? Both. You need both. I don't value one over the other. I'm just trying to figure out this is what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out why someone like Dr. King gets more hate than Jesse Jackson. That's what I want to figure out. That's what I need to know. I don't even see Jesse get this much hate. Maybe it's because Jesse has faded a little bit, but Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, those are the some fucking sellouts to me in a lot of ways, especially Al Sharpton. Hey, what's up, Afro Abe? I agree with this. I do agree with this. I'm doing all right. No, just curious from looking at a lot of stuff the last 24 hours about Dr. King. And like I said, I'm not an apologist for Dr. King. I do think that there are some things that he did that can be criticized. But sometimes it's like people talk about him like he's Adolf Hitler. That's the shit that I'm like, that's the shit that I'm confused about. That might have been a little bit harsh for me to say Jesse was a sellout. Um, I think Jesse did some things when he was younger that he was not proud of. Now, Al Sharpton definitely is a. Now, Al Sharpton already confirmed to be an FBI informant, and I believe he's an agent. You know what I'm saying? A Democratic plant. Now, Al Sharpton is, in my opinion, a race baiter, a grifter. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's crazy. Like Al Sharpton professes to be, when it's convenient, he's this black revolutionary leader, but the dude rub elbows with, what I'm saying, conservative Republicans, live with conservative Republicans, live probably I don't know exactly where he lives, but I wouldn't be surprised if he lives around white folks in conservative areas, conservative suburbs, or well, he probably lives somewhere like in a mansion area in a conservative neighborhood, but when it's convenient for him, he, what I'm saying, trots his ass down and act like he's one of us. Yeah, so I don't know, man. Like I said, I just know that I'm 43. My folks would be in their late 70s and 80s right now if they were still alive. They had me late. I grew up around a lot of older people. My grandmother, if she was still alive, would be 110, 100 and what, 11 years old. So I grew up around a lot of older people who was in that generation. And I know that the last few years of his life, white America hated Dr. King. They hated him like how a lot of white people hate George Floyd. You know what I'm saying? So that's how it is to me. It's like as if 25 years from now, George Floyd is a buck dancer or something. I'm not making. I'm not trying to make George Floyd to be a politician or any of that stuff. I know what he was. It was none of that. But the way Black America sympathizes with George Floyd is what I'm trying to say. Like it's odd. It's like it's strange to me that there's this hatred of him from some people, man. And yeah, some people do hate him who are black. Some people hate him. I've interacted with them. Yeah, we had Black Wall Street, but who fucked that up? White folks. Whenever we were prosperous, white folks fucked that up. There was we had political progress in, what was that city in North Carolina? Oh, I'm always forgetting it. Oh, man. What city was that? Where these racist motherfuckers, we had a biracial, it was in 1898. There's a city in North Carolina that had a biracial government, and these racist motherfuckers chased the leaders out of the city and took over. Won't even elect it. They took over the government, the local government. These fucking white supremacists. Wilmington, that's it. Wilmington. Whenever we're prosperous, it's either, you know. So even back then, we always have enemies. Even when we were a segregated a community, there's always someone or some entity that takes over or destroys us. And we've had other situations where we were prosperous and we were chased out of town, they steal our wealth. George Floyd went to prison for robbing a pregnant woman at gunpoint. Yeah, he's not a saint. Andrew Jackson murdered Indians, scalped Indians, scalped children, and he's on a $20 bill. Andrew Jackson signed legislation which forced hundreds of thousands of Native Americans, forced them out of their lands. Thousands died. Andrew Jackson beat and killed his own slaves. Vicious, evil, nasty motherfucker. But he's on a $20 bill. Hey, I'm gonna send a link in the chat for anybody want to come chop it up about stuff. But you see, they cover up there. Yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard about that with Ben Franklin. But they cover that shit up with their heroes. I've always this is interesting from Mr. X. He said we were at war with the racist power structure. Civil rights was a means to an end by global communists to finally get black people integrated into American society. But back then we needed the bill. I've always wondered whether or not part of the reason why quote unquote the civil rights movement took heed or started accelerating in the 50s is because, you know, of fear. Because here you had black GIs fighting in a segregated war, World War II, While at the same time, hypocritically, America will be fighting for freedom, going against the Axis powers, who are for German, white, Aryan, well, the Allies were fighting against the Axis powers who were for the Germans at least. And I guess to a certain extent, the Italians for racial domination. You know what I'm saying? Then these same fucking black soldiers coming back, getting spit on, treated like shit, and still getting, you know what I'm saying? So then at the same time, with the communist system, that could be appealing and was appealing to many African Americans at the time. It was. It was appealing because it wasn't as much of a preference on race in the communist system. So I wondered if many people was fearing people or Black Americans being more involved or more in sonce with the Communist Party or the communist system, and fearing that therefore that might have sped up the process of the civil rights movement. Okay, we know what, we got to listen to these. We got to listen to them now because this could be a security problem. This could be a threat to our democracy. I've always wondered if that was part of it. A lot of fruity presidents that are also covered up. Or rainbow. Well, that letter from Obama already showed how he swings. You know what I'm saying? What's up, X-Man?
Hey.
What's up, man? What do you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna point out. I think after watching what's been going on with Michael Jordan, I think this MLK thing isn't that surprising anymore. I think it's just clear that even if white people don't turn on you, it's clear that your own people will turn on you once you get up the top. So, uh, yeah. So yeah. So I guess people can only idolize their black public figures for so long before that crab in a barrel mentality start eating away at them. So
That's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because that's true. Because generally speaking, I've just always, cause look, one of the things I've noticed from some people is like, they'll say any black person who is accepted or seems to be celebrated by the mainstream culture, i.e., white folks, can't be trusted. But I've been noticing that it seems like anybody that gets any broad swap of support or love will get criticized. Like, for instance, just recently, Cat Williams. I don't agree with everything Cat Williams said, but for about a week, Cat Williams blew up on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, what do you see? People starting to make videos. I'm just talking from a aspect of social media. People making videos criticizing Cat Williams. People sitting on Cat Williams, calling this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them were black to me. And I can't sit there and say that it was white folks all just agreeing with Cat Williams. You know what I'm saying? That was Shannon Sharp. His podcast, his video got 50 million views. And I would just guess 80 to 85% of people watch those videos at least were black. So I don't
Mhm.
know if it's just always that. I think it's something within us, like you said, a crab barrel mentality.
Like I said, but before any of any later controversies, or remind you that a lot of black people at one point hated Bill Cosby when he was at they at one point used to hate the Cosby Show because they were saying it was quote unquote unrealistic because it was showing a upper middle class side of black people versus versus the typical poor violent like portrayal that we get in the media. And
Yeah.
a lot of black people hated that. They hated seeing a good version where black people were well off and were living a natural life and had not instead of a single parent household, a nuclear black family, and kids going to college and doing well in school. Apparently, that was too much. Apparently, for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I can agree with that because, like you said, when Dr. King, not Dr. King, Jesus Christ, my bad. I know this is about Dr. King, but when you say like Bill Cosby, when he was at his apex, there was always a good percentage of people in our community or people in general who resented him. Like you said, he said he had a fake image, it was unattainable, et cetera, et cetera. But now, over the last 10 years, when we start having these legal issues, when he was in a position where some people can relate to him, then, he started becoming more popular. When he was
Right.
in a situation where he's being, uh, you know, brought down, when he's being brought down a peg and put in prison briefly, then all of a sudden he started becoming more and more admired, which is,
Right.
what I'm saying? Like it's just a weird way that we tend to look at stuff sometimes.
It's like a not knowing what you have until you're about to lose it type scenario.
Right.
With Michael Jordan, that one was the most like that's the most blatant like the crazy one because if you like when I ask people what are the biggest controversy related to Michael Jordan as a person, the main one is that he doesn't speak about political topics. No, that would make sense except for the fact that he actually donates to causes throughout his life. And he also was involved in the reason that most black athletes get as much money as they do today was because of his influence and his sponsorship. His Jordan brand also covers like a lot of athletes and gives them sponsors and gives them money. He was also I think when he bought out like Charlotte when he brought out the Charlotte Hornets. I know he no longer owns them, but at one point when he bought out the Charlotte Hornets, he was like he had more black people running his organization than just about any other NBA organization. So I mean, he's done stuff for his people left and right, and people are concerned because he doesn't do political speeches like he doesn't go on TV and do political speeches once every blue moon. But I mean, maybe that's not his shtick. Maybe he's not a good like political speaker. Or maybe he doesn't want to come off as superficial and say things that he's not well versed in. But
Right.
either way, even actions speak louder than words. So if his actions are showing you that he's doing a lot of good stuff, why should words matter or lack of words matter?
Yeah, I always got the impression from Michael Jordan. I always got the impression that he was not very political.
Sure.
I know in recent interviews since he stopped playing, he referred to himself as wearing like blinders when he was
Hmm.
playing basketball. He was really just focused on basketball. He really didn't have much nuance or anything outside of basketball and maybe the immediate concern. So he didn't really have a good political he didn't have a good grasp on political issues to really speak on certain things. So I know he said that he regretted saying it, but that's why he said the Republicans buy my sneakers too
Right.
statement back in 1990 with Helms and Gant, whatever his name
Hmm.
was, Harvey Gant race. He was just saying, I don't have a dog, I don't have a dog in this race. I don't really, you know, go into politics. Now I do remember after he retired in the 2000 race, he did support. I think it was Bill Bradley, but by that
Hmm.
time he had some actual time to sit back and look at the issues. But yeah, like you said, um, a lot of people don't want to put out there all the time things that they're doing just to
Yeah.
get pats on the back. Some people aren't wired like that. Some people, when they donate to charity or when they put their time to causes or do things for their community, they do it on their own accord. They don't want to put it out there for the masses.
Right. And I think that's why they don't. I think. I mean, this is just me. I mean, I don't have direct evidence, but I genuinely believe that the NBA, they have more of a love hate relationship with MJ. Like I
Mhm.
think that they wanted MJ to go into the next line of athletes in the '90s to be like the outspoken. Like they want him to be involved in the constant culture wars that society's in, and they hated it because he wasn't. They hate the fact that he refused to involve himself in all these culture wars, and it's even worse because they can't take him down per se because he's too big and he's too affiliate like the NBA's, and he like NBA always reached the greatest heights when he was at the top. And like I said, he's too big in relation to Nike. His brand is too big in relation to Nike. His brand is too big in relation to the NBA and the financial stuff they get from it. So they can't directly take him down as it stands like right now, but so it just feels like they have a like they begrudgingly accept him. Like they have a love hate relationship. Like they like the fact that he's making all this money for them and he's getting them all this and he has all this impact on their sport. But they hate the fact that he's not doing what they want. He's not giving them the culture the culture. He's not feeding to the culture wars that they want him to feed into.
Right. You talking about currently right now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but for
yeah.
instance, from the '90s to present day, like
Right, right.
he started with racing, and they always start with racing, then they start going into other topics, but he
Mhm.
didn't start at all, and so they were upset about that, and it just feels like they really don't want him at the top because
Mhm.
of that. Like they really don't like him, but they just
Mhm.
have to begrudgingly accept him because of his impact on the sport.
Right, right,
Right.
right. I could definitely see that. He doesn't fit into these times of social media,
Yeah.
where people are constantly giving input. And when you put it like that, because I never really thought of it, but when you put it like that, that does make sense why many people in the media and some of the people in that world love LeBron James because he's so accessible,
Correct.
he's so vocal, uh, and he plays their game. That definitely would, and he is a name. He's a huge brand himself. He would be the biggest brand. Outside. He is the biggest brand outside of Michael Jordan. So that makes sense. I never really thought of it like that, but that's a good point you made.
And you recall how they treated. I mean, I'm not going to go into detail. But you recall like around 2020, something was happening, and LeBron they asked LeBron to give his input, and he didn't give input. You see how quickly they flipped on him. How quickly they flipped on him that year because he wasn't coming out and giving a whole political speech about something they wanted other people to take. So
Right, right.
I mean, so that just shows that they don't care about Bron. They think of him as their puppet. And the moment he thinks for himself, they're like, "Why are you stepping out of line?" Basically. So,
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. Anytime one of those guys say anything that is outside of the script or out of bounds from how they perceive it, yeah, they will turn on them. They will turn on no matter who it is. So, like you said, even though these guys are millionaires, that's why a lot of people refer to them still. I mean, I don't know if disrespectful to our ancestors, but a lot of people still refer to them as slaves because yes, they got riches. Yes, they have all these things, but they are still shackled.
yeah.
And that a lot of these guys want to say things, but they cannot say it. They want to, but they know there's repercussions,
Mm-hmm.
serious
You
repercussions.
you see that's the like he had Michael Jordan. Like when I go throughout history and look back, it seems that people hit the standard that he set in basketball was unprecedented, and I think it's just like I don't want to go conspiracy theory, but I feel like there's this sort of like people, like a certain group of people not liking how successful he was. Like, uh, like recall when in the 1980s when he was doing just about, he was he when let's remind when he came in the NBA as a rookie, just about every player in the league was straight up acknowledging he was the most talented. Like not just because he's not just a freakish athlete, he's also incredibly skilled. He's just about as skilled as everybody because of
Mhm.
his impact and because of his competitive nature.
Right.
But as time goes on, people question whether he was whether he was the best in the league. So throughout the '80s, he just kept doing more and more, adding more and more skills and more fundamentals to his game till he was being de facto the best in the league.
Mhm.
And then the argument changed. Well, he does too much individually. He's not big enough. He doesn't know has what it takes to win championships. But then when he won, he not only won, he won in legendary fashion. He had won 3 straight on 2 different occasions, and that's when you start seeing this change in people's tone, where they start acknowledging him as the greatest, but they start doing these little side comments, these little subtle side comments about like, well, organizations win championships, not players. Well, MJ, he has the best team in the league. Of course, he's going to win. But wait, wasn't that just about? Isn't that just about every winner? Every winner in history has like one of the amongst the best teams in the league in order to win. During MJ's first repeat, the players who end up winning with the first repeat, they started off their careers as bench players and developed into starters. So it wasn't like they just got star from star here or star there and then just said, okay, here's your team.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at the Bulls teams for the most part, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not saying that those teams weren't talented, but I mean, look, when you look at like the Bulls teams outside of Michael and Scotty, and I would say I'm talking about the first three-peat team, Horace Grant
Right.
and BJ Armstrong. I'm looking at some of those guys, man, and then I'm like, man, Cliff Levingston, Scott Williams was decent. Scott Williams was good. Stacey King, you know what I'm saying? Bobby Hansen, Trent Tucker. Yeah. They weren't exactly, to me, like the Showtime Lakers. And I just thought that Michael Jordan did more with less than anybody in the history of the NBA.
That's correct.
I mean, you can bring up the Rick Barry team in 1975 when the only real guys here on it, I don't say only real guys, but the only real talented offensive players he had was a rookie, Jamal Wilkes, and what's his name? Smith. I forget his name, but that was one team. Or other guys had, they did a great job of carrying one team on a great run. But to win 6 championships on 6 different teams, where 2 of those years you were the only all-star, because don't forget, Scottie Pippen wasn't an all-star in 90-91. Right. And in 97, right, in 97-98, Scottie was a shell of himself. He wasn't an all-star. And for him to do what he did on those teams, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, go ahead.
It's like when you could, and I want to make sure I clarify this because a lot of people, they like to take people's words out of context. Of course, MJ had help. Every player who won championships has had help, and they were a great supporting cast. They did compliment MJ well. But what I'm saying is that when you compare MJ's teams that he won championships with, you compare him to all these other teams that won multiple championships, they don't generally measure up to those other squads, because usually teams that win multiple championships, they're elite on the offensive and defensive end. The Bulls were elite on the defensive end. The offensive end was very heavily predicated on Michael Jordan's scoring and off-ball talents.
Yes.
And during the second three-peat, they were legendary in the defensive end at that point, but they were really injury-prone. We've seen how injuries, once a player gets injured, at least 1 or 2 players get injured that are crucial to the team, that can mess up the whole squad. MJ's supporting cast were constantly getting injured left and right. Pippen was getting injured. Rodman was already getting injured before he joined the Bulls. And he continued to get injured. Kukoc started getting injured. Harper got injured in the middle of the 96 finals. Right? Longley, Bill Winnington, Steve Kerr, they were just getting injured left and right all throughout the second three-peat. And they were some of the oldest championship squads ever assembled. So, I mean, when you just take age, durability, and offense into account, it's hard to compare. And it's like even like I said, during the first three-peat, Horace Grant is a great player. Like he's a great player. Scottie Pippen is a great player. Bill Cartwright, John Paxson, they're a great supporting cast. But when you think about what their role is, what is like Horace Grant's role? He's supposed to be a low post player, right? Low post players, they usually rack up a lot of blocks, a lot of rebounds. They do a lot of man to man defense in the post, right? They dominate in scoring in the post, and they pass from outside the post. Like, you got to think, did Horace Grant really do that at the same level as other big men in the '90s? I wouldn't say so.
No,
You know,
I mean it was
right. So he's still, and I think what people don't understand is that what Phil Jackson did, people just think Phil Jackson just told MJ to pass. Well, no, that's not true. MJ passed more than anybody any other time in his career in 1989 under Doug Collins. Right? What Phil Jackson did is he used Michael Jordan's all-around game to cover the deficiencies, the offensive and defensive deficiencies that the Bulls had. Like, anywhere where the Bulls were lacking, MJ's all-around game would be like a cover-up for it. Like, MJ was a good post-up player. So if anywhere where Horace Grant's game as a low-post player wasn't working out, MJ could complement his game could complement that. His game complemented Pippen's because MJ and Pippen were both slashers, right? His game could complement Bill Cartwright because MJ and Cartwright were both good at mid-range. And he even improved his three-point shooting in the 90s because he was complementing John Paxson. So his all-around, like, that's what Phil Jackson did. He used MJ's all-around game to like cover in all those potholes of where his teammates were struggling in.
Yeah, I agree, man. I want to address this comment right here. Dr. X, 2014 Spurs didn't have a superstar. Duncan was no longer a superstar at that point, and Kawhi hadn't emerged as a superstar. Yeah, I'm not saying there weren't teams where teams won championships and there was no definitive multi-superstars. I'm just saying that I can't think of another player who was as successful as Michael Jordan was, who had multiple teams where he lacked superstar talent around him. You know what I'm saying? Even Kobe had Shaq the first three.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I just can't think of anybody else that did it as many times as Michael Jordan did.
The 2014.
Go ahead.
I just want to point out 2014. What people don't understand, that the Spurs and the Mavericks in the 2010s, they were people, like, I'm not trying to disrespect the modern NBA, but the NBA has kind of lost its like fundamental aspects, a lot of its fundamental aspects. And that's kind of why the Mavericks and the Spurs continue to stay competitive in the early 2010s, is because they were one of the last like fundamentally sound teams. They were one of the last teams that still had a low post presence, a mid range presence. They were still one of the last teams trying to have an all around game versus the heavy emphasis on three ball and slashing. And that's what kept them competitive. In 2014, and when they made the finals, people thought that was going to go like 7 games and it could have went either way. They only started dominating because the Miami Heat had really terrible ball movement that year, and they were really lazy on defense, and the Spurs just took advantage of their weaknesses. Like, that's pretty much all that happened.
Yeah, man. We, like you said, we don't really have a team. By the 2014-15 season, the analytics were starting to mess up the NBA already. Like you said, the teams were already moving away from the traditional mid-range, low post game. So Tim Duncan, it's interesting because Tim Duncan's last season, 2015-16, the Spurs won 67 games.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you how effective playing basketball the traditional way is when you go up against what supposedly is superior, which is, the 3-point shootout method of a 3-point or slashing way the teams play today.
Yeah, and also, what most people don't know is that the 90s and 2000s, those were 2 unique decades, because those were decades where it was status quo for teams. Because historically, teams were built on offense. Teams were offensively driven. Like, they were offensively constructed squads. It was in the 90s, thanks to the Bulls and the Knicks and all that teams started being defensively constructed. In the 90s and 2000s, it was common for teams to focus more, prioritize defense over offense. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. It wasn't so. Once the 2010s popped up with the Miami Heat and later the Golden State Warriors, that's when they went back to the offense oriented like squads.
Yeah, and like I said, that's why I have a preference for defense, because that's what I grew up watching. And it's interesting because a lot of these guys that were semi-stars 20 years ago, like Bruce Bowen, I don't know if he'd be in the NBA today. I don't know. Unless I guess unless I mean I know he was good at corner threes, but unless he had a more expansive 3-point game, I don't know if he'll be playing today. Some of these other guys, I just don't know if some of these defensive stalwarts, like Darrell Walker, I don't think he would be in the NBA today.
It was the beauty of it, because you remember offense was so loved by fans, medias, and coaches that offensive players cost more money than defensive players. So
Right.
I mean, why waste all that? So they start realizing, why waste all this money if I can I can just construct teams defensively and save a lot of money and possibly make my team competitive just by how good it is defensively. Why not try that? And you see that's why in the 90s and in the 2000s Western Conference, there was a lot of 50, 60 win teams. At the 2000s began, so in the early 2000s, it was so crazy. You can win 50 some games and still be like an 8 seed, barely make 8 seed, because so many teams are like, wait, why am I focusing on offense when I can save all this money and lock teams down defensively, and I can still win 50 some games. I can still possibly be a competitive team just by my defense.
Right. And unfortunately, the NBA proclaimed, when I say the NBA, I mean the hierarchy. They didn't like that type of basketball. They didn't like the 79-76 games. They didn't like it. I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it because to me, defense shows that it shows that you care. You're committed. They look at it like it's physical. Like I was looking at when I was playing the soundbite yesterday on one of my channels of Adam Silver talking about, well, you got these big, strong guys stopping these skilled players from scoring. And I'm like, so it's supposed to be easy?
If you're skilled, you should be able to score regardless.
Right. If you're skilled, just because someone is strong, you still should be able to score. They didn't stop Michael Jordan. They didn't stop Clyde Drexler. They didn't stop any of these other guys from able to score. They didn't stop Allen Iverson. So I didn't like that. I don't like, no matter how they try to spin it, you're trying to make the game easier for offensive players.
Right.
And to me, I think they wanted to cater the game. I think they thought that maybe if they go this route, it would bring in casuals, I guess.
Yeah.
Who, casual fans just like scoring, offense. And I guess that's helped to some extent, right? But to me, this is just my opinion, right? When you bring in casuals, these guys aren't really that committed to the game. So a lot of these casuals, they might watch some of the playoff games. They might watch some of the marquee games, but they're not your consistent fans. They're more of your box score fans. They're the ones that'll just sit up like, oh, let me see if such and such, how many points he had. Oh, okay, that's cool. They're not the committed fans. They're not the ones like me and maybe you and others who are on social media ranting and raving about how much we missed the NBA of old. And I think the NBA just doesn't get it.
Yeah. And I think that I also think the NBA didn't, like I said, they didn't like that parity. Like I said, MJ was involved in promoting that once he got that defense, once he made once he made it known that you can construct a team defensively and still win championships. So many teams were started doing it, and it was bringing way too much sameness, way too much parity, way too much sameness in the playoffs, where like almost every team from the first round to the second round was just like felt like an all-out war with all two teams just going back and forth to try to win. Like and I think the NBA just really disliked that, because they're used to like one team being on top and just dominating every team, and maybe one team pops up to defeat them.
And not just the NBA, the media. They don't like to from what I could tell, they seem to only want to talk about 3 or 4 teams, 5 teams.
Right.
They go ahead.
No, you're right. I mean, that's what happened. Like I said, the only reason they have to talk about more teams now is because, like I said, injuries and changes in the NBA the past several years have caused more parity unintentionally, right? Due to all these injuries. So now it's a little more parity back. But like I said, outside of I think the Orlando Magic this year, they were doing a lot of defense. They were more defensive constructed team, and they were pretty effective, and they went on like a 13-14 game winning streak.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, outside of there's not many teams that want to make defense. They want to prioritize defense over offense anymore. Like it's just the way the game's played and just how many offensive friendly rules they created. That's the thing which people are just in denial about. Apparently, I mean, so many modern fans are just in denial about that, even though it's, but yeah.
Right. I just want to read the super chat right here. Shout out to Demon Reacts for the $4.99 super chat. He says, I want to bring up MLK for a moment. I'm scared for this generation. I live in Florida, and old Ronald over in Tallahassee is trying to openly destroy his legacy. I guess you mean Ron DeSantis. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just noticing a lot of buck dancery, from different people, and it's like a lot of people just out there just I don't know, man. It's just different people out there that just are bashing a lot of our black heroes, black, notable people, saying outlandish stuff. I think the guy that's running for governor in North Carolina, he said something recently stupid about Dr. King. Called him something. I forgot what he said.
He said he was an inferior pastor or something like that.
What was it?
I think he said he was an inferior pastor or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it was. And he said some other stuff too. Called him an inferior pastor and all this other, like, dude, shut up. Then he said something about we need to be thankful. He more or less said we need to be thankful or we gotta, our ancestors who were slaves sacrificed. So we need to be quiet and honor their sacrifice for being slaves instead of demanding reparations, which is the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. It's like telling a family member of a person who was abducted and savagely, brutally murdered. We need to stop asking for, the person who killed your parents to go to jail. Just honor the sacrifice that they took when they were getting beheaded and butchered. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm sorry. Just say the stupidest things, man. It's like, it's just crazy. But let's get back on topic, though. Let me get back on topic.
I think it's funny because there's modern fans who actually will sit here and deny that the NBA literally changed rules to make it easier to score. When it's not only is it ridiculous, the actual owners of the NBA said it in real time when they were changing it. They said we're trying to open the game up and make it easier to score.
Right.
I can just go through the basic list. They specifically said that that made a defensive 3-second violation because players like Shaq was in a paint. It was in a paint a lot, so they made a defensive 3 seconds so that they can get big men out of the paint. Mm-hmm. They specifically got rid of hand checking so that players could like roam around the court more freely. They specifically loosened up dribbling rules to the point that what is even a travel is a question that people are still trying to figure out now to this day.
Right.
They removed what they called a 3-second. They created, I forgot what it was, a 3 or 5 second. They created a post-up violation because players like Charles Barkley, when they got older, players like Charles Barkley and Hakeem, they continued to stay relevant because they were able to use the post-up as a good strategy, and they thought that was slowing the game down, so they made like a post-up violation. So now,
I think they did that in like in '99 or 2000.
Yeah, and that's why I know LeBron was. They happened to LeBron like last year. He got a post-up violation, and he was confused what that was because it's barely called because people just said screw it, I just stopped doing it. I just stopped posting up altogether.
Right. Yeah.
The offense is the offense and the defense is both. People think that can help the offense. No, the offense is limited too. The offense and defense is now both restricted and limited. It's just that it's offensive friendly. It's just that it's easier you can rack up points easier. But the overall game offensively, they just limited what you can. They just limited what you can do. Just limited the post up. They limited how slow you can take to go from one end of the court to the other without a backcourt violation.
Right. It used to be 10 seconds. Now it's 8 seconds, right?
Yeah. Everything is so restricted. Everything is so, and like I said, once the Warriors team, once that power forward, who I forgot what his name was, he got injured and Draymond Green took over. Once that Warriors team took off, that was the end. There was going to be no more post up, more mid range, just straight 3-point.
I think it was Derek Lee. I think it was Derek
Yeah.
Lee, wasn't it?
Yeah, but what's funny though is even the Golden State Warriors, which pioneered this 3-ball, even they had a good mid range game when they were winning chips, right? If I recall correctly.
Right, and they were a good defensive team, and like you
Yeah.
said, they had Sean Livingston. They had some other guys that were good mid range shooters. It wasn't this extreme version of like let's just shoot 50 to 73s and that shouldn't win the game. Let's just let's just focus on getting to the cup and shooting 40 to 53s. And it's so boring and monotonous after a while, man. Everybody's playing the same way. And it's just.
And now with the NBA being calling fouls so easily, players are motivated to play defense. They'll just sit back and, they'll play defense once they're blue moon, but generally they'll just sit back. I'll watch so many games. There'll just be a stretch where players are just sitting back watching players like drive or watch a player like dribble, not even try to like steal the ball or not even try to like get the ball away from them. People just don't care now. It's like, well, anyway, I can just do offense and get credit for that and get like a lot of popularity for it. Then why does defense even matter at that point? That's their mentality.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm a Chicagoan, like I said, but if Michael Jordan, when I heard Michael Jordan wasn't showing up to the ring of ceremony of that Chicago Bulls ring ceremony, like I don't know if it was a weather condition or all, but like if he just said he didn't want to join, I wouldn't blame him at this point, honestly, because like I just said, the Bulls organization and its players and a lot of its players, they just feel very like, I give the sense of like ungrateful behavior like from them. Like I understand people, like a lot of people want credit and stuff like that, but let's remind people that before rookie MJ joined, the Bulls were 2/3 empty. They were going through financial problems. The Bulls wouldn't even be financially relevant if it wasn't for MJ joining the team.
Oh yeah, they before 84. Yeah, before 84 for a number of years, man, that team sucked. They sucked. Matter of fact, I believe it was. Go ahead.
And I remember the Bulls existed since like what 1966, 67?
66.
All those decades, right? All those decades they've existed. They have only won championships or even been to a finals during MJ's tenure. Like there were only one conference finals pre MJ and only one conference finals post MJ. So I mean, to say that MJ made them relevant is an understatement. And you would think, considering how every other star who leads their team to chips gets constant praise and credit and they accept it, you would think that would be the case with MJ. But for some reason, it's just like every as the years go by, more and more players speak out about like, oh, I'm not getting enough credit. More and more executives speak out about like, oh, I'm not getting more credit. It's like, okay. I mean, it just feels like if you're that, you're not even gonna praise the one guy who helped your organization be relevant financially and helped your organization and led your team to multiple chips despite all the issues going on. Then you don't deserve his presence. You don't deserve him you don't deserve to see him showing up to no ceremony. Like
yeah, I think that's what the issue with Jerry Krause was. Like prior to Jerry Krause, not saying that general managers were household names, but you kind of, because of who the Celtics were, because of who the Lakers were, those people in that position, they generally got credit. Like Red Auerbach, we knew who he was. It was just a household name. Whether it was Jerry West, we knew who he was. Other little individual teams, the Detroit Pistons, I forgot his name. McCloskey? Was it Dave McCloskey? I forgot his name, McCloskey or something like that. We all know that he's the one that made the different moves to get that bad boy team together. They got they got credit. For whatever reason, Jerry Krause just felt like he didn't get enough credit. And I don't know whether that's, he just had these, Napoleon complex or whatever it is, but he, to me, prematurely broke that team up.
Yeah. I think it was the MJ part of that MJ thing I was talking about.
Yeah, it was.
People were complaining that MJ wasn't a team leader, and that was the sole argument of people keeping him out of the GOAT conversation. So when he had won 3 straight chips, that was the first three. That was when people start really like starting to come towards his side as the GOAT. And it feels like a lot of people want to jump on the bandwagon. Like when he was getting criticized for being a bad leader, they had no problem with that. Like fuck it, you can just blame MJ all day. Cross don't got to get credit for the bad Bulls. None of the team has got to get credit. But now that he starts winning and that cements him as the GOAT, everybody's like, no wait, what about me? I was part of that. I was part of that. I feel like that's where Krause was coming in. Like he saw MJ becoming too big, and he was almost becoming bigger than the organization. And Krause was like, "No, slow down. We're the organizations are the ones create the chips. We're the reason we helped you become the GOAT." Like that's kind of what it was. Kind of that entitlement. Like I helped you become the GOAT, basically. Like you should be thanking me 24/7.
Yeah. Some of the moves I made helped you, and he also, if anything, I think his bigger gripe was with Phil Jackson.
Yeah,
he really resented Phil Jackson. He thought, like, because he's the one that hired Phil Jackson. He's the one that hired him. And snatched him, as he would put it. Yeah, he's the one that hired him because the head coach was Doug Collins.
Right.
Doug Collins was the head coach. Matter of fact,
underrated, by the way.
What'd you say now?
Underrated. People don't underrate.
Oh yeah.
Doug Collins helped the Bulls.
Yeah, he is. But he's the one that hired Phil Jackson and snuck him and plucked him out of obscurity. He was coaching in some foreign league, or I forgot exactly where, but he plucked him out of obscurity. And Phil was an assistant coach to Doug Collins. And I think by 88, 89, Phil was still on good terms with Jerry Krause, and Phil was becoming enamored by the triangle offense.
Right.
Even though Phil gets credited with that, that's actually was the invention of Tex Winter, right, who was on the coaching staff. So by 88, 89, it looked like Doug was on a short lease already then, and he was wearing out his welcome with Jerry Krause and them. Then he got fired, right, and that's when Phil Jackson became the head coach, implemented triangle offense. Michael hated it initially, didn't like Phil Jackson initially, but that changed quickly. And then, they started winning. But then Jerry Krause started resenting all the praise that Phil Jackson. Phil was good with the media, good with the press, the Zen master and all this type of stuff. And it looked like Phil was the one that changed everything. But right, Jerry Krause is like, wait a minute, I hired this guy. I'm the one that made the trade to get Bill Cartwright, the unpopular trade to get Bill Cartwright and trade away Charles Oakley. I'm the one that made the draft day trade for Olden Polynice for Scottie Pippen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm the one that did these moves. I'm the one that got Dennis Rodman later on. So he felt like he wasn't getting credit.
Right.
Which to a certain extent was true.
Yeah. So what I'll say, like the Doug Collins part, what people don't understand, like I think he's heavily misunderstood, and I think people heavily they just kind of like erased him almost from the Bulls history, almost like. But people when Doug Collins, so the Chicago Bulls before MJ, Chicago Bulls like the past 3 years had just missed the playoffs. They were barely winning like 20 some games, crazy, worst team in the league. MJ pops up, he drastically improves them to like 35 games, and they're like a bottom 8 seed, 7-8 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Collins so when Doug Collins took over, he had to take over a team that was barely making an 8 seed and were barely making the playoffs. In 3 years he turned them into about a third year he turned them to the conference finals. He took them to the conference finals. He turned them to like one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, and he drastically improved their ball movement. Like he drastically improved that team. Like they were just getting swept in the first round the past 2 years. Then that they started winning 40 some games, 50 some games, making the second round. And he helped expand Michael Jordan's game to the monster offensive and defensive monster that he is as well.
Right. You make a good point, because this what irritates me about people. They say, "Oh, Michael Jordan was getting swept, and he was getting swept by the Celtics." Yeah, you talking about the best team in the NBA?
The 8
seed. Michael was an 8 seed.
It's the first. That's the important part. You're always going to bring up when people put up this false analogy about like MJ getting swept versus Bron. 8 seeds get swept in the first round almost every year. In fact, the Bulls, when the Bulls were the first seed, they were sweeping 8 seeds in the first round. Like it's not uncommon. It's uncommon for teams to get swept in the finals because they're both top seeds that just made it through 3 different rounds of the playoffs.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, but people with Doug Collins, I get Doug Collins. His issue was that he was being too defensive about against using a triangle. But I understand his point was that like we're trying to focus on like strategy, but we don't even have the personnel yet. We don't have the shooters yet. Triangle needs shooters. You need players. Need post to play. We didn't have those players yet, and they were just slowly getting those players during those 3 years. They didn't get they got Pippen, and he started in '87, and at that point they only had MJ and Paxson. At that point, they didn't get Pippen and Grant until '88, and then get Cartwright and Craig Hodges until '89, his final year. And by that point, he took him to the conference finals. So it's like people are kind of getting too hard on him. Like he was doing what he could, and he was doing what he could. He was like, before we do any strategy, we got to get the personnel first.
Right, and you can make the argument Pippen and Grant hadn't developed yet.
Right.
And by the time Phil came in, they were just coming into their own. They were starting to develop, and they had the experience and the knowledge and the development of their skill set and wherewithal to start gradually implementing themselves into a system like the triangle. Whereas before, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked. It would be a disaster. I just want to make a point too. The point about how you say how good Coach Doug Collins is. In 88, 89, and 89, the Pistons went 15-2 in their championship run. The year they won 63 games.
Mm-hmm.
The only team that they lost to those 2 games were the Bulls.
Yep. And the Bulls were supposed to lose in the first round that year. They overperformed to beat the Cavs in the first round. They overperformed to beat the Knicks in the second round, even with Pippen fouling out in the final game, the closeout game. Right. And then he gave the Pistons their only 2 losses in the whole playoffs.
Right. And then in 90, you could argue they could have won a championship that year if Michael Jordan simply had some help. That was the migraine game. Michael Jordan had 30-something, 31 points or something like that. Outside of Michael Jordan, including B.J. Armstrong off the bench, the Bulls, the rest of the starters and B.J., they missed 46 out of 57 shots.
Right. Goodness. But people also don't bring up is that the reason Pippen was chosen as MJ's right-hand man, what people don't understand is how good MJ is and how much he elevates other people's game. The reason Pippen and MJ had such a good like connection was because MJ was a slasher first and foremost, and so was Pippen. Mm-hmm. Pippen's scoring wild was to be a slasher, and that's the same thing that happened when he was a rookie. When he joined as a rookie, he drastically improved Orlando Woolridge's game because they were both slashers. So the side effects. So when you have MJ, he can take care of all the deficiencies as a slasher that Orlando Woolridge has, and take all the pressure off him, making it easy for him to score. And also that also helps MJ because now he has another slasher next to him. So all the slasher responsibility isn't just on him. It's like I scratch your back, you scratch your back. Right. So that same thing was happening with Pippen. Pippen was a slasher just like MJ. So even though Pippen wasn't fully skilled or developed as a slasher as most slashers are, MJ was. So it was okay. So now MJ takes the pressure off him, and it helps him score easier, and vice versa, because MJ has a score next to him. It's easier for him. It's easier on him, and so that's when that was the blueprint of what Phil Jackson ended up seeing, saying, okay, wait, what if MJ takes that and he does that and extends that courtesy to the rest of his teammates? What if he becomes a post-up player? What if he becomes a mid-range shooter for Bill Cartwright and a post-up player for Horace Grant, and improves his 3-ball for John Paxson? And there you go. There's the Bulls 3 beat.
Right. Excellent point, man.
Yeah, people just talking these crazy absolute. They just talk like, well, MJ, he was just getting destroyed in the '80s. And then all of a sudden, Phil Jackson popped up and quote unquote taught him how to pass. Like that's so mythic. That's such a myth. It's so.
Oh, hey, wait a minute. Someone in the chat just said, "Rest in peace, Ric Flair." Did he die?
Oh, did he die? Ouch. Did he? Who died?
Wait a minute. Let me look this up. I don't see that. I don't see that. Give me 1 second.
I think I said that people was worried about his health. I think I said he left the Buccaneers game. Yeah.
I don't see anything.
You just had a health issue. I don't know if he's passed.
I just see a health issue. Okay. Yeah, but okay. I see what it is. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Because I'm gonna end this soon. What do you think about the current state of the league right now?
I think that it has potential to do better. Like I said, I think the best bet, if the Nuggets start winning multiple chips, I think that would push it in a good direction. Maybe
Mhm.
just because the Nuggets are like they play a pretty solid fundamental game. So
Right.
I think that would probably show people that you don't have that you can play fundamental basketball and win championships. And since it's led
Right.
by Nikola Jokic, who's not really athletic, maybe that would take it in a good direction. Um, if the Orlando Magic in a few years somehow manage to win championships, that would also take it in a good direction because, like I said, they seem to be constructing their team through defense, and they seem to be moderately successful, but they're not championship, don't look championship worthy per se. Uh,
Right. Right.
that's the last those are the like some of my last hopes of a possibility of the league uh, being great, because at this point it just feels like it's one of those it's it's sort of watered down for entertainment. And honestly, I don't think it's even just the NBA. I think that seems to be just about everything. That I look at it, just about everything entertainment wise just seems to be kind of watered down for they focus too much on the entertainment aspect and not the overall fundamentals that make it great.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I do enjoy watching the Denver Nuggets play. I just wish one guy would just get out of the NBA. I'm not gonna say no names. I just want one particular guy to just get out of the NBA, man. I just want to see some of these other guys because I'm looking at the All Star voting, and there's definitely other stars. So and
Yeah.
you know,
I'll say this because I'm assuming, because the thing about LeBron, which is his issue, like I said, it seems like LeBron was supposed to be used as like the foil to MJ to take MJ over, as like the take his MJ's like throne as the greatest of all time.
mm,
Mostly because MJ doesn't involve himself in politics as much as
mm,
the way LeBron does. But it feels like after like it started being known after LeBron's like 13th, 14th season that he wasn't living up to the specific hype that they set. And I think that's when it started getting toxic. Like I think it wouldn't have been that bad if they didn't start doing what, but I think somewhere around 2017, 2018, that's when the media started like heavily pushing the LeBron better than MJ thing, and they start heavily saying things that don't make sense, like LeBron making his teammates better, or we would build a team around LeBron over Michael Jordan, where LeBron is being more skilled or some weird stuff. It, I think had they just accepted that LeBron didn't live up to the hype and didn't wait for someone else to try to push someone else in the go conference, it wouldn't have been as toxic as it is now. But yeah, I think that's heavily on the league. That's heavily a fault of the league and the media for not just accepting that it's over. Like most people don't. If most people don't agree with you that LeBron's not the GOAT, then it's time to move on and stop the conversation. But they didn't. So,
well, I just want to address this right here. It says from Goat Debaters and Opinion. True, I'm excited to see some of the younger talent in the NBA as well. I will miss watching LeBron play though. I think it's going to
I'll
be
miss watching Miami LeBron play. I really like Miami LeBron. On and
yeah,
off.
yeah. I like first stint Cleveland,
Yeah.
Miami LeBron. I like that
Mhm.
guy who wasn't the way he played back then. He wasn't as concerned about numbers,
Right.
and he was more of oh man, he was awesome. The Miami Cleveland LeBron was awesome.
Yeah.
This guy playing now is oh my god, I don't like him. I don't. I can't stand him. I it might take me a number of years till I start missing LeBron. Honestly, um, no, I'm not going to miss him at all. Not from basketball. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I think he did some good, but it was a lot of it was negative impact. Like I said, once he started that whole idea of franchise players teaming up in our prime, you can tell the NBA just started getting watered down at that point.
Yeah.
And that idea about once the best player in the league decided that is not important to play defense, that defense isn't a priority. A lot of other stars follow suit, and now defense is kind of like just lacking. And yeah, I mean, But like I said, back then when he was playing, there was a lot of diversity in the way teams were constructed. There was a lot of diversity in the way teams were formed and way teams played, and now it's not much of that. So he was a big part of it. He wasn't the only reason. Like I said, Golden State was another factor, but he was a big part of that negative scenario, and it's sad.
Well, one other thing, I will ask that, but there's one other thing. What do you think is the ultimate fate for the Golden State Warriors? You see Clay staying with them. I think Draymond's gone. Either after this, I think he might go by the trade deadline. Honestly, this is my opinion. Do you think they're going to blow that team up?
Yeah, they might if the stuff doesn't work out this year. I think that's about the end of the Golden State run. They're about to blow it up. Because like I said, the things that was helping them be dominant, like is gone. Like people just thought the three ball was the reason. But like I said, they had a mid range game, but most of those mid range players are either gone or retired. They had good defense because they had Mike Brown. Mike Brown was their assistant coach, but now he's the head coach of the Kings. So, and now on top of that, you see Draymond Green. He's doing his whole. I don't know if he's trying to be like the modern day Dennis Rodman, but yeah, I don't know, or if he's trying to outdo Dennis Rodman and what type of provocative stuff he can do on the court. But he's definitely annoying a lot of people, and he's definitely messing with the Warriors. Like he's definitely becoming a cancer in the locker room. It just doesn't matter what happened with KD and the other. I think what was it, Jordan Poole? They're saying they're starting to say that he's a cancer in the locker room, and now he's getting suspended left and right. I think that's it for him. Like I said, Rodman. It was about to be it for Rodman had it not been for him joining the Bulls.
Yeah. People forget that, man. Because at the time, people perceived him being as over the hill, even though he was a freakish athlete that had more years apparently. But 95, he was done. San Antonio, it was a disaster. He was 34 at the time, and no team really wanted him, and
injury prone.
Yeah, injury prone.
He wasn't as offensively skilled as most low post players are. He was kind of undersized for most big men. Most big men.
Right. He was only 6'7", 225.
Yes.
Undersized. Didn't give you much offensively.
Yeah, and then so once you start adding that extra, like, oh, I'm gonna do crazy stuff. I'm getting myself kicked out of games. That's when teams are like, okay, we don't want to deal with you because now you're not showing up to practice. Now you're getting kicked out of games. Now you're injury prone. You're not good offense. You're a good, really elite man-to-man defender, a really elite rebounder. But you start asking as the issues start piling up, start asking yourself, is it worth it? Is it really worth? Is all these issues worth his great rebounding and defense? And a lot of teams are starting to say no, not anymore.
Right. And I remember when I was out, because at the time I was 14, I think 15. I was 15 when the Bulls signed him, and a part of me was like, yes, because he filled perfectly the holes that Horace Grant left, except for scoring, but that could be made up in different areas.
But MJ,
MJ's
legendary.
But in other words, I was like, man, is this going to work? Because this guy's a head case. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, with a few, bleeps and for the most part, it worked. Especially the first 2 years, it worked. Third year, he was starting to slip a little bit, but yeah, man, it was good talking to you, man. Glad somebody put on the link.
I just wanted to point out one more thing. I found it interesting that a lot of stats and analytics actually say that MJ's impact seemed to be at his biggest in the late 90s. I don't know if that's related to him dominating the post a lot more due to Rodman not being as skilled in the post. That's interesting.
Well, you mean statistically more dominant?
No, I mean this thing called on off. I know it's not completely fully reliable, but it's this thing called on off. How players score when you're on the court versus how they play when you're off the court. Right. His on off seemed to be at his best in the late 90s specifically. Like analytics say, was on off was at his best in the late 90s. I don't know if that was because of the injuries or because he was in the post a lot more. It drew a lot more defensive attention, but
well, I'm not too familiar with that stat, but I do know this. Even though he only averaged 28.7 his last year, the Bulls only averaged 96 points a game.
Right.
So he was actually taking on. I know he was taking on a larger load offensively his last year than he did in '96.
Right.
He was taking on more, a bigger load offensively. And in particular, I just remember so many games in the last 2-3 championship years, especially '98. There was so many games when Pippen was just not, because as the NBA slowed down and the lane started clogging up, Pippen wasn't getting as many drives.
Right.
Right, saying after 95, 94, 95. And Pippen was never really a great jump shooter. He had his moments, but he was never a great jump shooter. So, man, it was so many games, especially the playoffs, when Scottie Pippen was just disappearing offensively. I saw a crazy stat that said from the time he scored, I think he had a 34-point game or 31-point game against the Charlotte Hornets in '94 opening round playoffs. From that game, Scottie Pippen never scored 30 points again in the playoffs for the rest of his career as a Bull.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he was also scoring like 30% or something from the field in many playoff series.
Yes, you remember that. You remember that, right? Yes.
Yes.
He had series where he would shoot 30%, 28% from the floor, like totally disappearing offensively. And I was like, man, it's crazy. The Bulls have like a 83. Let's say the Bulls in the fourth quarter have an 83-72 lead. Michael's on the bench. He gets on the bench. All of a sudden, the team that we're playing will go on like a 12-3 run. And back then, points were harder to come by. Right. So you're like, good God, man, come on, this guy can't get a break.
And it's also interesting. You would see there was a time, especially in '97, that was the most offensive one, where players were missing so many games that you would see so many regular season games where like bench players be in a starting lineup. You would see you would see a lot of like not the bench players like Kukoc. I mean like other bench players who barely played. Like they were literally in the starting lineup for a lot of regular season games, and they were just sitting there running a triangle with MJ. I'm like, this feels like something you see in like an alternate universe. Like you're seeing a player sitting here running a triangle and winning games with players who generally don't even get minutes. Like,
yeah. That might have something to do with that stat you were talking about, like
the on
off. Right. I mean,
they would get destroyed when he was on the bench, and they would dominate in legendary fashion when he was on the court during that second.
Right. That makes sense though. That makes sense. I think this guy said he wanted to come on right quick. What is it, Trench Kid? What's up?
What's up, Tuo?
Hey, what's up, man?
How y'all doing this day?
Doing pretty good.
That's what's up.
What's up, man?
Oh no, I was listening to the conversation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The conversation was just about ending, but I was just telling that that's it's interesting that MJ during the second. I think his prime personally ended around '93. Around that time, because
I would say about 93.
Yes, I think it was interesting that he wasn't really in his prime during that second three-peat, but his impact was probably at his best during that entire stretch. Just because,
I would even argue from watching. How old are you, X-Man?
Yeah, I'm only 25. I wasn't around when he was playing.
Okay, I watched him. I would even argue. How old are you, Trench Kid?
21.
Y'all babies, man.
Yeah, I just do research.
No, you do a lot of good research though, because you make good points. I watched them, so I would say honestly, I think you could see a decline that last year a little bit, 92, 93, a little bit. But you could argue he was tired, but I did notice that he wasn't driving to the basket as much in 92, 93. But you could argue he was tired from the Olympics and the playoff runs. But but when he had to ratchet it up, he could still display an awesome athleticism and quickness. But I really started noticing it, like you said, after he came back.
Yeah. He said 93, you can see he became a pure shooter. He became a pure shooter that season. Like he was shooting a lot of threes.
Yeah, he was shooting a lot more jumpers. More than I've ever seen him before. But interestingly enough, though, when he came back in 95, he was trying to play like how he did before he retired. If you look at that
Right.
little stretch of games and those 17 games he played then and 10 games playoffs, he was going to the basket, dunking. He was trying to, but the problem was he was wearing down.
Yeah.
If you remember, like a lot of those games, he was starting to wear down in the fourth quarter because he was getting older. He didn't quite have the same stamina. So,
'cause Prime MJ had stamina that we've pretty much never
right,
seen.
right,
Like his
right,
offensive
right,
and defensive motor was something else.
right. He had a crazy stamina. So in '96, he started placing himself more. He started playing more conservative, more grounded. The occasional drive, to the basket, but he started pacing himself more, and he got in better shape too. I gotta say, got in better basketball shape.
Yeah, and he posted up a lot more during that stretch. He posted up a lot. He played a lot off ball more. Scored a lot off ball. And when it came down to defense, he would do a lot. He was really good at help defense, which he was so he can still make steals and blocks during a lot of help defense plays instead of just the typical man to man or typical like trying to be a defensive disruptor like he was doing in the earlier days.
Right. I agree. Well, I was gonna say, Trench Kid, I was ready to end it, man. That's why you want to stay, make any comment about anything?
Man, I didn't. No, not really. I haven't really been listening to me. I'm on the road.
Okay.
I forgot what I was gonna say, but it came and lost.
Did it have anything to do with Dr. King or the Michael Jordan thing, or?
And first of all, happy Martin Luther King Day. Late great icon.
Yeah.
And Mark, he died in Memphis too. My favorite team too.
You're right. It was Memphis. Yep, it was.
Yeah. He honestly could have lived though. He got smothered. It wasn't a gunshot wound that killed him.
Oh, I read about that too. You talking about that doctor that spit on him and strangled him?
Yeah.
I read about that.
Yeah, that was fucked up. Excuse me.
Yeah. Apparently, man, Dr. King was still alive, and they were trying to take him out. This was an organized hit. So there was a doctor that apparently came into the room, ordered everybody out, and one of the nurses that was there that night on the shift said that it's just the same story that he's read about. She heard someone get, how like someone going like gathering spit.
Yeah.
You could hear the guy doing that, spit on him, called him a the N-word.
Yeah.
And then smothered him with the pillow. Yep. And this is the guy they say is an agent though. I mean, I don't know. Whatever, man. I mean, people want to believe that. That's fine.
I just want one more thing. I know this is unpopular, but I personally believe MJ should have won a MVP in '97. I personally believe that. I mean, that's I know it's an unpopular one, but
one thing I will say, I just wish Michael Jordan, as the greatest player of all time, I just wish he never retired so many times. Like he could have just kept on going. He could have had at least 10 titles.
Right.
Not mention the MVPs or MVPs he could have won if he didn't go play baseball.
He could have won more. Believe that he could have won more scoring titles. He already got the record. He could have had more scoring titles and more all defensive teams. Proven by the fact that he won it.
There'd be nobody in a generation that could catch him if he did that. I still don't think nobody could catch him now, but still, it would have been harder.
Yeah, if he had never retired, I definitely know he would have won the scoring title in '94 and '95, and he would have won it in '99, the 50 game season.
Yeah.
2000, I'm not so sure because I think by that time he would have been declining a little bit more. But he definitely would have won at least 3 more scoring titles, in my opinion. And if he had never retired, excuse me. Did I say 93? Okay, yeah, 94, 95, yeah. And 99. And I think he should at least won 8 or 9 championships.
Yeah.
At least. But you can make a case, what I'm saying, more. But I definitely think his legacy would have been even greater. It wouldn't even be a debate.
I know Shaq probably would have won the scoring title over him over 2000 because Shaq had almost won it over him in 98. I know because MJ was declining. In 99, MJ would have won it because it was a short season, so he wouldn't have to worry about that. Right. I know about 2000, Shaq probably was definitely going to win it over him at that.
Because Shaq averaged 29.7. I don't know if at that point, I don't know, man. If Mike was to score 30 points a game, I fear there would have been an ugly 30 points per game.
So you heard him.
You know
to I had a question. What do you think about the Warriors losing yesterday to the Grizzlies while they star players? And where do you see this team going in the future?
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I just saw some evidence. I'm gonna upload a video on my 2 Raw Media channel. I'm not saying that game was fixed, but did you notice that never mind, I'm not gonna say because you get mad at me. You'll get mad at me because you're a Grizzly fan. No, but did you notice y'all shot 40 free throws last night?
What was that?
Did you know y'all shot 40 free throws last night?
I did not know that.
Yeah, y'all shot 40 free throws, right? Mm-hmm. And the Warriors shot 10. I got a theory, and someone brought something to my attention. I think the league knows that you guys are out of contention, right? Because of Ja Morant, y'all not gonna probably go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But the Warriors are a threat to the Lakers. So I think they want to keep the Lakers ahead of the Warriors as far as I know it sounds crazy. I did a video talk about this. They want to keep the Warriors behind the Lakers as far as getting to that playoff spot. Because it's crazy that y'all shot 40 free throws, but y'all took 54 3-pointers. That's just crazy to me. But but that's just one game. But the Warriors, man, I think they're done though, bro. I think they're done. It's over.
I feel like I don't know if it's just y'all because you brought up MJ's retirements. So I just feel like you ever feel like there's some type of like meaning behind all this? Like, because what are the odds that he retired after winning 3 straight the first time and then retired after winning 3 straight the second time? Like, what are the odds of that, of those specific timed retirements? You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's some people.
I'm not saying anything, but yeah, just
right. I mean, I know there's some people that think that it was secret suspension the first time. Mm-hmm. Because the gambling thing. I mean, it's possible. The second time, I do think that was the domino effect from Jerry Krause. I think that was just a domino effect. Jerry Krause did not want Phil Jackson back, so Phil left. Mike was adamant that he wasn't going to play for any other coach. So when Phil left, Mike retired. If Mike retired, that means Scottie and Dennis Rodman going to go. So that was it. That was just the team. But Mike has said he did not want to retire.
Yeah,
that's why Chicago Bulls fans to this day hate Jerry Krause. Now it was classes that they booed the widow, but that's why so many Bulls fans hate Jerry Krause because Michael Jordan still wanted to play basketball.
And the organization should have known better than to because Jerry Krause was being booed in real time. He was being booed when he was actively during the. So they should have known. They should have known there was a possibility that was going to happen if they openly announced his name and stuff at a ring ceremony. Like, I'm not sure why they did that. And on top, maybe they thought they was going to get him brownie points by bringing his elderly wife. Maybe that's what they thought. I don't know, but yeah.
I guess they thought, well, they can't boo this old lady. Shit.
Right. And they probably weren't even booing her. They were booing before the lady's picture even popped up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I ain't trying to make excuses for them booing her, man. That was like messed up, man. It kind of made me a little like, damn. But people got to understand, man, like, yeah, time heal all wounds. But, man, I remember. I was there. I remember reading it just like anybody. I was in high school. I was reading, and I was like, man, please don't fire Phil Jackson because I don't want this team to break up. Because Michael Jordan did not want to retire. He wanted to keep playing.
And that's so funny. Michael Jordan is such a loyal, he was so loyal to the board. That's the crazy part about it. And when he came back from his first retirement, the Knicks were offering him a spot. He could have simply went to the Knicks. One just with Patrick Ewing, his legacy would be different. He still would have a three-peat on his name, or if not more, and he would still be highly praised. But he was so loyal to the Bulls organization. He tried everything he could to stop Pippen from leaving, to stop Rodman, to keep Rodman when the media was trying to say Rodman's too much. He tried to defend Phil Jackson. He did everything, even beforehand, even before those players, even before he was winning. He tried to defend Charles Oakley from being traded. He tried to defend Doug Collins from being traded, and that's why he brought Doug Collins back when he was on the Wizards. Like as a thank you. Like anytime anybody helps him, is helping him or is involved in helping him, he does whatever he can to be loyal to them and help to stop them from being traded.
Remember, before he retired in January '99, even though he knew he was retiring, remember he was active with the players union during that lockout.
Right.
He was active with the players, even though technically he wasn't a player no more.
Mm-hmm.
So he always looked out for others or the players, like you said, or people that was loyal to him, or whatever. So yeah, man. I'm gonna go ahead and end this right now, though, man. But it was great talking to you guys.
My fault.
Hey, let me get this one. Let me get this dude in here. I'm sorry, I'll keep something ended. I'll be here 2 more hours. Hey, I know I'm going to end this. Let me get the 75th guy in here. Now,
what's up, Sean?
What's up, Sean?
Hey, man, I want to ask you just one question, or I'm just going to ask you 2 questions, and you be out of here. Okay. Do you really think that the NBA is really going broke? And number 2, the savagery when it comes of stand bases, when it comes to disrespecting the dead, man, like
Kobe.
How do you feel about? Yeah, Kobe. Man, like when I actually and also I went to that went to the event when the time when Kobe died, and also every single person, every single Angelino went to go to the Staples Center. Well, it was the Staples Center. I still say the Staples Center, but
right.
And then in the internet, man, I never seen savagery in my life like that. Like they disrespect the hell out how someone else is dead. Like I don't even like me personally. I probably don't not like certain people, but I would not even disrespect them on their deathbed because I don't want that to happen the same thing as me. But right. How do you feel about that?
I think it's classless. I know you asked the other question, but I'm asking this one. It's classless, man. Like I don't play around with that because if you could follow my channel, I'm always paying tribute to people that passed away or respecting people that passed away. I don't like that. I don't like that playing with the death thing. I mean, it's a transition. It's permanent. They're not here no more. Especially in the manner that Kobe Bryant passed away. The manner, like this horrific, just tragic. Like, I mean, just what the worst ways to die that you can imagine. And for people to make fun of that and make jokes and memes and all because, you think this guy's a better basketball player. Like that person really has no scruples whatsoever, man. I couldn't do that. That's how I feel. You know what I'm saying? I might make jokes about people's hairlines or stuff like that or weight jokes, but yeah, stuff like that, man, that's not funny, man. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I'm not trying to say all young people like that, but because there's some people my age do stupid shit like that, but it's just
I've seen more older people than younger people doing this, man.
Yep. That's why I got to say that. Like it's young idiots. Older people that's doing it too, man. So it's like I don't get it. Like I remember, a friend of mine told me the day that Kobe Bryant died, the day that he died, when they found out of his job, and some people were like, turn up a little bit. One idiotic ass old man goes, well, he ain't gonna be shooting no threes no more. Like, what the fuck are you talking? That's not funny.
Mm-hmm.
The troll culture that goes on.
Yeah, it's just troll. Like, everything's a joke. Everything's a joking manner. Everything's not funny.
I had a quick question before you ended the space. I didn't mean to cut you off, but what I want to say about the videos you made about Adam Silver basically like ruining the NBA. He's making it worse, whatever. What would you do personally if you was the NBA commissioner to make the league more fun and entertaining? Like what rules would you put in to make the NBA from stopping super teams and clicking up and all that and stuff like that?
Well, I know as far as the play, if I could get away with it, bring back hand checking. Eliminate the 3-second rule as far as back to the basket. I mean, being in the lane and 5 seconds in the back to the basket. I want to bring back post play. I would. I mean, if I had the power to do all this stuff, which I doubt a commissioner has that much power, but if I had all this grandiose power to control everything, I would promote defense more. As far as like penalizing like players teaming up, I don't know if some things I could control though. Like I don't know what rules you could put into. I guess the only thing you could do is penalize if it can be proven that players are communicating with each other, as far as fraternizing, as far as business within the NBA or something like that, some rule, I guess. But I don't know if that'll be if the Players Association will have a fit with that one. So I don't even know if that would pass. So I don't know. But I know as far as the game is concerned, I would try my best to get basketball back to where it used to be, man. Like in the 90s, a balance. I don't mind the 3-point shot. I love it. It's just we need to bring a balance back, man. As far as offense and defense, as far as like the way the game is played, you know what I'm saying? But as far as I'm concerned, Adam Silver is ruining the game, man.
Yeah, he talking about dropping 82 games or something to like 65 games, whatever I heard.
No, wait, you serious?
No, it has to be 82 games. Man. It gotta be 82 games.
They're getting more money than ever. So, and they load manage on top of that. So, I mean, I don't see why we need to lower the price at this point, lower the games at this point. It's like
that's bull right there.
Yeah.
Now you're just messing with the league.
And I also would do something about. And I'm thinking about it. Players honoring their contracts. You know what I'm saying? Like if you agreed, if you signed a contract, and this is the thing, Scoot Henderson's struggling, right? We will all say Scoot Henderson is struggling right now in Portland. Does that mean that he should take back money?
I mean,
because you know what I'm saying? Because all these guys now they want to renegotiate a contract because they're having a good year. Now they want to renegotiate. And if they don't get what they want, they sit out, or they're trying to sit out. And I think stuff like that need to be addressed.
I think they should make it so that you don't get paid every day that you don't play. Every time that you don't play, at those 82 games, you don't get paid for that day. That's what they should do. I guarantee you, people.
I agree with that. I agree with that unless they're injured.
Unless they're injured, right?
Yeah, unless they're injured.
Unless they're sufficiently injured and they have a medical and they have medical evidence they've been injured versus them just saying it. Right?
And they need to get rid of load management too. Like you got to play. If you're not hurting none of you, and even if you don't feel like you're gonna play, or you get fined.
Oh, hey, look. Okay, I got another guy coming.
We got another Pandora's box.
Yeah, man. What's up, D-Dog Culture? You still there? He's not there, I guess. Yeah, he's not there. But yeah, though, man. Yeah. And I saw someone in the chat reminded me. Yeah, they need to do something about. I'm not saying get rid of some of the all of the ball handling stuff because I don't want it to get back to the 1960s with that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but some of this stuff is a little bit, man. You got to clean the game up a little bit, man. Like,
oh, you talking about the double dribbles and
the
traveling,
the double dribble and traveling.
Harden, Skippy I do 3-point shot.
They call it the gather step as long as you're in the act of shooting. It's not traveling.
I call it galaxy step.
Gather step. That's what they call it.
All the way to the whole galaxy.
That shit.
Yeah, man. Some of that stuff, man. Like the that excessive stuff, man. Just crazy, man. You know, and I think
college too.
What do you say now?
They need to start drafting players from college instead of constantly drafting from high school. Because in college, they will force you to play in a team system in college first. So by the time you get in the NBA, you become more disciplined. You become more disciplined with the fundamentals. So
I don't think that's a problem. I don't think that's the issue.
Part of it. It's just like they get drafted straight out. Because in high school, they don't run plays as much as like in high schools as much as they do in college, as much as they do in college. So you're drafting a player straight out of high school, barely reached 18 years old, and you give a bunch of money. I mean,
I hear you on that, but it's not about like if someone is going to either high school or college. It's about the mentality. Like you could go to college and you could be one of the greatest collegiate players of all time, and then you could suck in the NBA.
Of course.
Or you could be a high schooler and you could be like, oh, I'm a borderline average high school player, and you could become one of the greatest. It's all about just mentality and consistency. These players, and I can't blame these players right now in that mentality because it's already been built up back in the day too. You know what I mean? Like you can use examples like Kwame Brown or Smush Parker or something like that. You like those guys, them the mentality wasn't consistent. You know what I mean? They work on the game. It's all about paychecks. These players are not doing anything different from back in the day. It's just more expand.
Hey, this guy Josh Johnson, shout out to Josh Johnson, long-time subscriber, says, Raw, how do you feel about NBA All-Star voting today compared to back then? How do you guys feel about that? I have my opinion. How do you guys feel about that?
Man, we need a change, man. We need change on that. The players need to vote for who's an All-Star.
I just want the NBA. I'm sorry. My fault.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't want sorry.
No, you go. No, you go.
Okay. Like the media has been doing the same exact thing with team this versus team that. Now they come back with the East versus West, but you guys already ruined the All-Star game. You guys already ruined it. It's already too late. Like no one cares anymore.
Yeah, but the players don't even. They just sit back and watch each other do dunks. Like, come on, bro. That's like the slam dunk contest at that point. A 5-on-5 slam dunk contest. Like,
I don't know. To me, like the NBA just haven't been the normal since like the 2016 season.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to where it was. Like, I want to be at an all-time high again.
I think 2014 for me was like the last year I felt like the NBA was truly the resemblance of the NBA was what it was. I think that was 2014. Because at that point they still had the Mavs, they still had the Spurs, they still had KD was still on the Thunder. That was like the last resemblance of like some type of like defense, some type of like team structure, some type of like all-star competitive. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as the All-Star vote is concerned, fans have gotten a lot more fanboys, for lack of a better term. They're not as responsible. If many fan bases had their say, they'll just vote for their favorite players, for their favorite team. If anybody's on the ballot that's on their team that they root for, they're going to vote for that person, regardless of what other players have accomplished or who should rightfully get votes as an all-star for that respective position. So that the thing that blew me was, what was that year when? If fan voting was all they were judging, I think Zaza Pachulia would have been an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Remember that? Yeah. Like that. Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand the argument, man, that maybe it should be players now. It should be players that decide who goes into the All-Star game. But you know what? Players used to vote the league MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day before 1980. This is what is this? Cash with a 1999 Super Chase says, back in the day, the NBA marketed players and that lifted the league. Now players can market themselves and the league can go back to more team marketing and bring back some rules. This is great, Terrell. You should do this more. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, but what about the new age players? What about the up and coming players? I mean, they still need the NBA to market them to get them. You know what I'm saying? Like the up and coming stars, the NBA still have to market these guys before they get to the point where they could self sufficiently market themselves after they get a big fan base.
I mean, again, like I just don't. I think that these players should concentrate their game as a way in order to market instead of like you're like some type of cult personality. But that's just me though. I just don't really I don't really think that their games should speak for themselves.
Right. I guess he suggested that we should get back to more rivalry, like team rivalries and like Celtics versus Lakers and Sixers versus Celtics and Bulls versus Knicks. I agree with that, but the players don't they don't have the mentality for that today.
These players move like Drake.
And like I
That's
said,
pretty much it. They move like Drake. They'll be saying on subliminals, and then they'll be like happy to the guy that they diss, or they be buddy buddy. Like shoot, Isaiah Stewart, man, he was pissed off that LeBron like accidentally punched him, and he was about to go 8, and then later on he said, man, it's all good. We would try to establish a positive personality. And blah, blah. I'm like, what the fuck? He just punched you in your face. I mean, not offense, but like, I would take that personally, just like what MJ said, but they're on some Drake shit, OVO,
It's the buddy system of franchise players teaming up, and it's the lack of utilizing role players. Back then, that's the reason role players exist. People don't understand the purpose of a team system isn't to elevate the star; it's to elevate the role player. The star can perform well in just about any system. The role player, the team system elevates the role players' like abilities on offense and defense. But you got these, but now players like screw the role playing. Let's just have franchise stars team up and just overly utilize them until they get injured. Overly excessively utilize them through the offense until they get injured, and then that's the situation we have now.
Right. Also, Cash with the 499 Super Chat says, "Okay, how about market more than LeBron?" Well, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that, man.
I wish they market more than just LeBron. I mean, they had Curry, they had Kawhi. Well, when he's healthy, they had Giannis. Giannis should get market more.
Yeah, I think I don't even know who would they qualify as the player, the best player in today's game for the past several years.
To me, I'll go with
all these injuries and because maybe Giannis, maybe. Like I said, Curry and Kyrie, their rise up was like more so unexpected. It wasn't even something that the league planned for. It just kind of showed up. It just kind of showed up on them.
Right. Man,
they planned for KD, but then he joined the Warriors, and then he hasn't, and that changed everybody's opinion on him. Then he left the Warriors and hasn't done anything. So
let me ask you guys a question. Do you think what holds back Jokic and Doncic and Giannis from being heavily like promoted and marketed, and especially in the States, is their accents?
I would say their accents,
like commercials, media. Do you think that kind of hurts them a little bit? Like,
I would say that's one of the reasons, but I would also say it's that their play style is a little. Maybe Giannis's is good, but I think Jokic is more so like his play style is purely. He's like a Tim Duncan. He's a pure fundamentalist. He's not much. Right. He's not very athletic. And then on top of that, I think both Jokic, Doncic, and Giannis have all said that it was easier to score in today's NBA than it was in their league. That their league was actually harder to score in. So that they could probably. So the NBA probably is not going to promote somebody who says that. Promote people who say that.
Oh yeah. Speaking of them, 2-0. I was talking with my father about this a couple of weeks ago. Do you think the NBA is being taken over by foreign players? by foreign international players.
Taking over?
Yeah, like basically like becoming the new face of the league.
Well, I mean, I don't know if well, man, there's something to that because who has been the last, I'm thinking, who's been the last great American new player? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got Giannis, you got Doncic, you got Jokic,
Joel.
Joel Embiid. Now you got Victor Wembanyama.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the last like great American player like that was drafted?
I'll say,
and it's not just that. Like coaches, a lot of coaches that want to win championships, like they go for foreign-based players because foreign-based players don't, they don't have that financial incentive that American-based players have, and they're more likely to listen to their coaches. So now coaches
are Canadian too. Some people know that.
I mean, the closest player right now is Anthony Edwards, but even he making mistakes.
Yeah.
We're not going to mention that, but outside that, Giannis to me, he's the best like two-way player of this era right now. He could play both sides of the floor. People say he don't have skills. His mid-range is improving. His three-point is improving.
His post-up is improving because Hakeem, right? Hakeem was training him, I think, this year.
And he already made like a Hall of Fame career before at the age of 30. So, in a way, right now, I'm going to say this. I'm not saying that international players are taking over the game, but they're telling you that we're about to take over the game. And it's not the issue. And the issue with NBA promoting more international players or promoting less of them is not because they hate their accents or whatsoever. They want someone who is much more of they want an alpha model looking type of guy, as opposed to someone who's humble, who are just like, hey, I'm getting to work, I'm concentrating on my game. My game speaks for myself. It's more so like, hey, we need to move some bolsters in order to put in social media or whatever. That's why they bring Bricks R Us, aka LeBrick James, every single time, even if he's at age 43 or whatever. He brings a lot of attention, even though we hate his attention. They still make capitalized money. My Lakers, even if we losing like freaking 5 games and I'll say like 59 losses, Jeannie Buss is still gonna try to promote LeBron James in some other type of way, which I absolutely loathe. But they still bring. He still has some value, even for his age.
I honestly think LeBron, after he got swept by the Warriors, I just think he should have just left and just stayed in Cleveland and never went to LA. Because personally, I ain't gonna lie, I think the reason why he went to LA is because he's more focused on Hollywood than basketball.
Get that point, yeah. I think, honestly, I think if I personally feel like he should have stayed originally on the Miami Heat, but once he left the Miami Heat, okay, if he went, he probably should have just stayed the rest of his career on the Cavs, right? Because here's the thing: the original argument they were trying to use was the reason he had to leave the Cavs because he didn't have any like star talent, but he has star talent on the Miami Heat, and he's had star talent on the Cavs. So if you leave in both of those teams, what is your excuse? Your original argument was that you didn't have the talent, but they've been giving you talent and been trading left and right to keep you competitive every year.
I suspect
so it puts a hole in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I suspect the reason why he left is because he couldn't have everything his way around Pat Riley. That's my suspicion.
Of course,
with that.
Right. I think they said he wanted to fire. I think they said he wanted to fire Eric Spoelstra originally when he got on the team, but Pat Riley didn't agree with that because basically Eric Spoelstra was an extension of Pat Riley's beliefs. Like he was like an extension, a younger extension of Pat Riley because Pat Riley was basically mentoring him and making him to promote him to be the coach. So
Right. I'm gonna get these super chats out of the way. Corte, the 499 super chat says, could you consider making that list of players players you hate longer or do it by decades? Love those videos. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that.
I do see him going back to Cleveland though before he retired.
Right.
Angry Skips, the super chat says, besides Horry, Fisher, and Horace Grant, who are some other standout role players?
I think Danny Green was a standout one. Nobody talks about.
Yeah,
but he got blackballed recently. But
yeah, Danny Green,
Danny Ainge too.
Danny Ainge. I mean,
Robert Ory.
Well,
there's
he
some
brought up
others.
Robert Ory already.
There's some others.
I'm sad that Danny Green can't get a job in it.
Gerald
I think he's out
Henderson
of.
back in the day. Go ahead.
I'm sad that Danny Green. I think he's not even in the NBA right now because I don't know if he got injured and they didn't.
Yeah.
Danny Green he was a really good like role player. Like he seemed to be like teams that he joined seemed to help turn into championships. I mean,
I thought he was still with the Grizzlies, wasn't he? Or did they waive him recently?
I think they waived him after like a few games. I think before he. So yeah. I mean, he's really good. Like I said, he was part of the Spurs in 13 and 2014 during that championship run. When he left, he helped Kyrie with the with the Raptors when they won that chip in 2019. Then the following season, he was on the team with LeBron when they won that chip in the Lakers. Only chip they won on the Lakers in their bubble year. And I'm like, if a guy's showing you that type of impact, you probably want to, if you're trying to have a competitive team, you probably want to add him to it. You ain't got to be in the starting lineup, put him on a bench or something. But just like clearly, he knows how to get teams involved, and he knows how to help turn them to competitors. So I would use him while you can before he retires.
Yeah. I just looked at it. Danny Green played 2 games for the Sixers. I don't know if he's still with them or they waived him. His career pretty much is over.
Yeah.
Oh, someone brought Sean Livingston. That's another notable standout role player. There's some other ones. Just brain farting for right now. Vinnie Johnson for the Pistons, another great role player.
Kirk Heinrich from the Bulls.
Kurt Heinrich. There's been a lot of great role players.
Yeah, we need more of those. We need more of those Robert Horry, Danny Ainge, Danny Green type players who like can fit in just about any system where they could still help the team stay competitive. They can improve the team. The NBA really needs those type of role players in today's league.
I thought I made this clear right here. So if someone says, who is your GOAT? Or AB, who is your GOAT, MJ or Wilt? You're trying to get me killed on here, huh?
I think you said what was his GOAT like right from past
years? I mean it's Wilt. Sometimes I will. It's like this. It's almost like 1A and 1B with these two. Like I will say MJ is a GOAT, and then sometimes I'll say Wilt is a GOAT. They're to me, they're in my opinion, this is my opinion, they're the 2 most dominant players I've seen in NBA history or research. So those 2 pop up. Now I understand why Wilt Chamberlain has fallen in recent years. I get it. A lot of it has to do with the ring culture, the perception that he kept losing to Bill Russell, or Bill Russell kept outplaying him, which is ludicrous. I get all of that. But to me, those are the 2 greatest players. If I had to pick one, I would say Wilt.
Right. I have what I do is I think top 10s are too limited, so I just make like a pyramid, if that makes sense.
Right.
I have like a tier. I think on that tier, I have like players like MJ, Wilt, Kareem, kind of like Russell, like those players who you could easily say the GOAT, depending on who you ask and what you're valuing. Because the standard they set is just really high. They set like a really high standard of like basketball that hasn't been seen before since.
Right. Well, before I go, I got to say this, man. Hey, Sean, man, your comments on Patreon be hilarious, man.
Hey man, I'm just keeping it real, man. They be hey. If I said this on YouTube, they'll be blocking me, man. They'll be like,
Right. You know what I'm talking about, man. You know what I'm talking about, man. Like it'd be funny, man. That's what I be thinking.
"Oh, you talking about the one of them is like the Dwight Howard,
Stuff like
the
that,
Dwight Howard one? Yeah, oh
stuff
yeah,
like that, yeah. It'd be funny, man. But yeah, man, like I just had to tell you that, man. When I saw you, I said, "Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite Patreons right there, man." Because it'd be funny. Because I think you were the one that told me. I think you were one of them. Because when I first started doing Patreon, I think you said, "Man, you need to go a little harder, man. Like you're a little bit. You need to go a little harder on this Patreon. Like you need." I think it was you. It was one of them. One of y'all was telling me, "Man, you need to go a little bit harder, man. See how you really feel."
either it's me or someone else, but regardless, yeah, you need to go hard. I'll be like, "Shoot, you might as well."
Yeah. Say how you really feel. Like, yeah, I gotta go a little harder, man. Because I was so used to being on YouTube and you can't really say what you want to say on here. So
I
yeah,
mean, this
man.
is YouTube and Twitter. You know, this is all unlimited. This is absolutely unlimited. If you want to say something, they knowing that people's gonna be angry, but they can't do anything about it, you can say over there, man. Shoot, like you
Yeah,
know, I said, yeah. When I was making fun of Dwight Howard, I was saying like, man, he was really making peanut butter, jelly, and acid sandwiches, man. It was ridiculous. Like how, like you a basketball player and you thinking about all that in the pandemic. I was like in the pandemic. How did you get a lot of people in your house in the pandemic? Did you use a private jet
First,
or
yeah,
or a Greyhound?
right. Like I ain't gonna try to get too graphic, but first of all, it's the pandemic, so just having that many people in your house without masks and not knowing their status is bad enough. But then you taking the peanut butter and jelly with your kid, probably, eating that, and you do that
Oh
with
my
it.
gosh. I was like the kids touched the same peanut butter. I was like, bruh, you are a monster. You are a certified monster. You are a terrible parent and a monster.
You know
Like
he
you
just
can't
want
just
custody of his daughter. You know he just
I'll
want.
listen. For every woman who he is pregnant by, get your kids and get away. That's what it is. Like
Yeah.
just get away. Forget even the child support money. Just get away from him.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
know what I
listen to
mean?
that dude, man. There's something wrong with him, man. Great player, but something is wrong with that guy, man. But I'm gonna go ahead and end this now. I gotta
All right,
end this.
just let me know next time when you're live streaming too, Rob, or we'll try to pop up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to start letting you guys know when I'm going to go live. But I appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for being on here. And thank you guys.
No problem.
All right now.
All right,
Peace.
Peace.
All right now.